You are listening to KLRN Radio, where liberty and reason still reign.
Twinkle, twinkle, little star.
This fall, Inspiration 4 launches as the first all-civilian mission to space. And you could be on board.
Up above the world so...
Visit inspiration4.com for your chance to go to space.
Dealing with COVID-19 is uncharted territory, and everyone has different challenges. People may feel anxious, down, or overwhelmed. For some, these feelings can lead to changes in sleep patterns, an increased use of alcohol or drugs, or withdrawing from the people around them. If you know someone who's having a hard time coping, you can help by reaching out to talk and listen. To learn more about how you can help someone in need, call the Suicide Prevention Lifeline at 800-273-TALK.
Some people look to the stars and ask, what if? Our job is to have an answer. We have to imagine what will be imagined. Plan for what's possible while it's still impossible. Maybe you weren't put here just to ask the questions. Maybe you were put here to be the answer. Maybe your purpose on this planet isn't on this planet.
KLRN Radio has advertising rates available. We have rates to fit almost any budget. Contact us at advertising@klrnradio.com.
Foreman, 6 pints of bitter and quickly. The world's about to end.
6 points coming up.
We're not hosting an intergalactic kegger down here.
The following program may contain coarse language, adult themes, and bad attempts at humor. Listener discretion is advised.
Let me take you on a little trip. My supersonic ship's at your disposal if you feel so inclined. Well, alright. We're gonna travel faster than light, so do up your overcoat tight, and we'll go anywhere you want to decide. Well, alright. Too many people side by side, got no place to hide.
Welcome to the Lost Wanderer Intergalactic Kegger After Show something or other. What is going on here? Another one? So quickly behind the other one? Well, it seems that perhaps everyone is trying to beat the end of year crunch. I probably should have done only the first Lost Wanderer tonight, but honestly, there were enough interesting space science news outside of the main show. I had to fire up another show yet again. And don't get me wrong, I don't mind, but hopefully some of these stories will die down soon in number, so I don't have to do this every 2 weeks, because it takes a fair bit of time. But remember, the rules of Intergalactic Kegger that I just made up here. If I mention Einstein, drink. If I mention aliens, drink. If I mention Neil deGrasse Tyson, drink again. Okay? Let me know if you want me to add any more to this list. What did I pick as the main story for the Intergalactic Kegger show? Well, one that is kind of short and quirky and maybe of interest to, say, someone like Rick and Morty of Juxtaposition fame. The Pentagon has created new office to probe, giggity, UFO reports. Wait. Are we calling them UFOs or UAPs? Kind of getting hard to keep up with the nomenclature here anymore. But anyway, the Pentagon is creating a new office to investigate unidentified flying objects amid concerns that after broad probes, it cannot explain mysterious sightings near highly sensitive military areas. Deputy Secretary of Defense Kathleen Hicks, working with the U.S. Director of National Intelligence, ordered the new investigatory body to be established in the U.S. Defense Department's Intelligence and Security Office. This order came 5 months after a classified U.S. intelligence report on possible alien UFOs came up inconclusive. It could explain some reported incidents, but was unable to account for other phenomena, some filmed by pilots near military testing areas. The new office will focus on incidents in or near designated special use airspace, strictly controlled and blocked from general aviation due to security sensitivities. The U.S. military is worried some of the unidentified aerial phenomena spotted by military pilots in the past may represent technologies of strategic rivals unknown to U.S. scientists. Incursions by any airborne object into these new areas, special use airspace, pose safety of flight and operation security concerns and may pose national security challenges, the Pentagon said in a statement. The Defense Department takes reports of incursions by any airborne object, identified or not, very seriously and investigates each one. The new office was dubbed Airborne Object Identification and Management Synchronization Group, the successor to the U.S. Navy's Unidentified Aerial Phenomenon Task Force. It will be overseen by a panel of experts from the military and the community, or the intelligence community. A mostly classified official review of UFO reports released in June determined that most of about 120 incidents over the past 20 years could be explained and had nothing to do with unknown or secret U.S. or foreign technology. But it could not explain some beguiling reports and videos made by military personnel. Last year, the Pentagon released a still inexplicable video taken by Navy pilots of objects moving at incredible speeds, spinning, and mysteriously disappearing. Now, China's July test of a global circling hypersonic vehicle that was able to launch a separate missile while traveling at more than 5 times the speed of sound alerted Washington that Beijing might have technologies the United States have yet to develop. But these UFO, UAP sightings, possible aliens, are not the only thing I think we need to worry about. The risk of invading organisms is low, but the chances are actually increasing every day. And no, I'm not talking about my brothers and sisters from Alpha Centauri. The growing demand for space exploration is increasing the chances of alien organisms invading Earth and of Earth-based organisms invading other planets, scientists have argued in a new paper. The researchers point to humanity's record of moving species to new environments on Earth, where those organisms can become invasive and harm the native species. They say such behavior suggests the same could happen with an alien life form from another planet contaminating Earth and vice versa. The search of life beyond our world is an exciting endeavor that could yield an enormous discovery in the not-too-distant future. Very science theater. Oh, sorry, I got distracted there. However, in the face of increasing space missions, it is crucial to reduce the risk of biological contamination in both directions. Riccardi and his colleagues used the paper to call for more collaborative studies between astrobiologists searching for extraterrestrial life and invasion biologists studying invasive species here on Earth. We could only speculate on what kinds of organisms might be encountered if astrobiologists were to find life. The most plausible life forms would be microbial and probably resemble bacteria. The scientists consider the risk of interplanetary contamination to be extremely low, partly because the harsh conditions of outer space make it difficult for potential hitchhiking organisms to survive a ride on the outside of a human spacecraft. However, we should still be cautious of interplanetary contamination based on the negative impacts that invasive species have had on Earth. Humans have damaged ecosystems around the world by allowing organisms to invade new environments they'd never reach naturally. For example, a fungus from South America called Astropuccinius piscidae, got in the dark on that one, was introduced to Australia in unknown circumstances and is taking over the country's native eucalyptus trees, stunting their growth and sometimes killing them. The researchers noted that insular ecosystems that evolve in geographical isolation, such as on islands in countries like Australia, are particularly vulnerable to invasive species because the native wildlife in those places haven't evolved adaptations to deal with such invaders. Biological invasions have often been devastating for the plants and animals in these systems, and we'd argue that planets and moons potentially containing life should be treated as if they were insular systems. And, definitely something to be mindful of. But, maybe not in a C-word panic if you catch my meaning, Mr. Frodo. But the hunt for aliens do continue. And if you want to drink on that mention of aliens, you can. But this time, it is in the disguise of searching out planets. A new artificial intelligence algorithm has discovered over 300 previously unknown exoplanets in data gathered by a now-defunct exoplanet hunting telescope. The Kepler Space Telescope, NASA's first dedicated exoplanet hunter, has observed hundreds of thousands of stars in the search for potentially habitable worlds outside our solar system. The catalog of potential planets it had compiled continues generating new discoveries even after the telescope's demise. Human experts analyze the data for signs of exoplanets, but a new algorithm called ExoMiner can now mimic that procedure and scour the catalog faster and more efficiently. The telescope, which stopped working in November of 2018, looked for temporary decreases in the brightness of the stars that may be caused by a planet crossing in front of the star's disk, as seen from Kepler's perspective. But not all such dimmings are caused by exoplanets, and the scientists had to follow elaborate procedures to distinguish false positives from the real stuff. ExoMiner is a so-called neural network, a type of artificial intelligence algorithm that can learn and improve its abilities when fed a sufficient amount of data. And Kepler generated plenty of data. In the less than 10 years of its service, the telescope discovered thousands of planet candidates, nearly 3,000 of which have been since confirmed. And that is a vast majority of the overall 4,569 exoplanets currently known. For each candidate exoplanet, scientists were pouring through the Kepler data. They would look at the light curve and calculate how large a portion of the star the planet seems to be covering. They would also analyze how long it appears to take the would-be planet to cross the star's disk. In some cases, the observed brightness changes are not likely to be explained by an orbiting exoplanet. The ExoMiner algorithm follows exactly the same process, but much more efficiently, which allowed the researchers to add a batch of 301 previously unknown exoplanets into Kepler Planet Catalog at once. When ExoMiner says something is a planet, you can be damn sure it's a planet. ExoMiner is highly accurate and in some ways more reliable than both existing machine classifiers and the human experts it's meant to emulate because of the biases that come with human labeling. Fascinating. And it should be noted that another defunct tool in the astronomer's tool bag is still presenting useful data. A team of astronomers from the University of Western Australia and the International Centre for Radio Astronomy Research in Perth have used Arecibo's observations of nearby galaxies to test the fall relation. First presented by S. Michael Fall in 1983, the fall relation suggests the mass of stars belonging to a galaxy and its rotation directly correlate to each other and dictate how a galaxy will grow and evolve. Funded by the Australian Research Council and published in the journal Monthly Notices of the Royal Astronomy Society, the new study tests their relationship using data collected from 564 galaxies of varying shapes and ages, making it the largest representative sample of its kind. Lead author and PhD candidate Jennifer Hardwick said the study would help researchers better understand how a wide range of galaxies evolved and formed, including our own, the Milky Way. Although the fall relation was first suggested almost 40 years ago, previous research to refine its properties had small samples and was limited in the types of galaxy used. This work challenges astronomers' current understandings of how galaxies change over the lifetime and provide a constraint for future researchers to develop these theories further. Prior research into this relationship has been restricted by the type and number of known galaxies, with resolved accurate data, which researchers use to measure galaxy rotation through the Doppler effect. This study shows that the relationship between the mass of stars and galaxies' rotation is not what we first thought, with different galaxy types displaying a different relationship between the two properties. Because galaxies evolve over billions of years, we have to work with snapshots of their evolution, taking from different stages of their life, and try to piece together their journey. This process has left astronomers with lots of unanswered questions about a galaxy's life cycle. By developing a better understanding of galaxy properties now, we can incorporate those into our simulations to actually work backwards. And I have to admit, that is also pretty damn cool. And 2 more stories to present in this abbreviated after show. Yes, I know it's not going to be a full after show. There were these 2 stories, the UFO story and the alien parasite stories, which ones I really wanted to cover, but ran out of time in the main show. This next story deals with what was mentioned in the first part of the show, asteroids, and just how many are actually threatening. So, you've heard that an asteroid could slam into Earth, wreaking all sorts of havoc. But just how many space rocks out there actually threaten the planet? And it's complicated, because the answer depends on what you mean by threaten. Let's start with the most important takeaway. NASA knows of 0, let me rephrase that, none asteroids large enough to do meaningful damage on Earth and currently on track to collide with our planet in the foreseeable future. But large asteroids hanging around Earth? Well, we've spotted plenty of those, and scientists are discovering new near-Earth asteroids almost daily, with more than 27,000 identified to date. Quote, we're racking up these numbers for these populations, but at the same time, there is no known threat right now to Earth. Kelly Fast, who is Near-Earth Object Observations Program Manager at NASA's Planetary Defense Coordination Office. There's no asteroid that we know of that poses a significant threat to Earth. And while it may seem paradoxical, the constant rise in near-Earth asteroid tallies turns out to be the best news possible if you're worried about a potential asteroid impact. People think planetary defense is all about deflecting asteroids, but it's not. Nancy Chabot, a planetary scientist at Johns Hopkins University Applied Physics Laboratory in Maryland and the coordination leader of DART, told Space.com. Keeping track of the actual asteroids, identifying them, and finding them is really crucial toward being able to do anything about them in the future. Scientists have identified some 750,000 asteroids to date, but suspect there are millions of space rocks ricocheting through the full solar system. Fortunately, plenty of those stay far, far, far away from Earth. Consider, for example, residents of the main asteroid belt or the Trojan asteroids that flank Jupiter in its orbit. In Earth's neck of the woods, that number comes down somewhat. It's, like I said, scientists have currently identified about 27,000 or a little more near-Earth asteroids, with new ones being spotted routinely. Now, those discoveries are thanks to a team of instruments on Earth and in space that dedicate some, if not all, of their time to spotting and cataloging asteroids. The vast majority of these discoveries have come since the late 1990s, although experts were warning of the threat posed by asteroids before them without much success. If you talk to the scientists who were studying this in the 80s, there's a phrase they often referred to called the giggle factory. They're basically saying that they couldn't talk about this scientific topic without people kind of laughing at them. Get that? The work was quite difficult then as well, with surveys relying on photographic film developed in a dark room, then used with a device that helped the human brain recognize asteroids moving against the background stars. Now, modern cameras and computer programs can bear much of that blunt of the identification work. So the rise of asteroid detections has been in part of a matter of the technology, but increasing funding was also a key, which made reducing the giggle factory vital. One milestone was Comet Shoemaker-Levy's 9 impact of Jupiter in 1994, which unexpectedly left a mark in Jupiter's clouds the size of Earth that lingered for months. People started to think, whoa, if that happened to Jupiter, what would happen if that hit Earth? Congress got on board with prioritizing asteroid hunting, calling on NASA to identify at least 90% of the first of the largest asteroids, then medium ones. Today, there's a whole host of projects that detect near-Earth asteroids, whether it's the top priority or just an opportunity they can make use of. Leading the charge today are programs like the Catalina Sky Survey based in Arizona that specializes in catching smaller asteroids, the Pan-STARRS Observatory in Hawaii that excels at spotting faint objects, and NEOWISE Space Telescope that can see the whole sky, and the Atlas telescopes in Hawaii that are tuned to the fastest moving objects. It's kind of like an ecosystem. Everyone has their role. Everyone kind of works together with their own strengths to really cover the sky. Wide field survey telescopes are set up for other purposes, like for astrophysics investigations, for instance, and then they end up getting the asteroids that photobomb them. And asteroids hunters are looking forward to a few new instruments joining the team soon. Planetary defenders are particularly excited to see the Vera C. Rubin Observatory in Chile begin observing in 2023. And a space-based mission called NEO Surveyor is also in development and scheduled to launch later this decade. There's been a lot of work done to predict how many objects both missions will find, and those numbers are incredibly large. It should be a huge increase in the number of asteroids and comets found, and that's always really exciting. But surveys on their own aren't enough for planetary defense experts. Follow-up observations are crucial to give scientists the data they need to accurately calculate an object's orbit. And that's the key part here. You want to know the asteroids are there, but you really want to know where it's going to be in the future and whether Earth is going to be in the same place at the same time. So remember that the next time you see someone freak out on Twitter, whether it's The Hill or that Neil Dumbassery Tyson, drink. So that, take that, remember, please take the time to read the article and not the panic porn so many like to sell anymore. Or hell, shoot me a message and ask me to research it. I'll give you a good answer or find an answer for you, hopefully. And crap, I forgot a story. So, 2 more from this point, okay? And this next one is, well, science-y. And we all know how we like science-y around here. Elusive neutrino candidates detected in breakthrough physics experiment. Getting late in the day, okay? For the first time ever, researchers have detected neutrino candidates produced by the Large Hadron Collider at the CERN facility near Geneva, Switzerland. In a major milestone in particle physics, researchers in a new study reported observing 6 neutrino interactions during an experiment at the Large Hadron Collider. Neutrinos are subatomic particles that have a very small mass, like an electron, but have no electrical charge, a characteristic that has made them extremely challenging to detect. These neutrinos were said to have been created during the inaugural run of the emulsion detector that was combined with CERN's PHASER, or Forward Search Experiment collaboration, in 2018. Prior to this project, no sign of neutrinos have ever been seen at a particle collider. This significant breakthrough is a step toward developing a deeper understanding of these elusive particles and the role they play in the universe. The LHC, which includes 4 main detectors, ALICE, ATLAS, CMS, and LHCb, generally works by colliding 2 high-energy particle beams with one another close to the speed of light. When the charged particles, like protons, smash into one another at such high speeds, the energy of the impact becomes matter in the form of new particles, or subatomic particles. So the LHC can essentially produce subatomic particles. In this run at the Large Hadron Collider, the team was running a pilot test with a new emulsion detector instrument that is made up of dense metal plates of lead and tungsten interspersed with layers of emulsion. Emulsion plates, or layers in physics, works a lot like old-school photography film. When film strips are exposed to light, protons show themselves as images as the film develops. Similarly, with this instrument, when exposed to the particle collisions, the emulsion layers revealed neutrino interactions after being processed. Particle colliding during the test produced neutrinos that then smashed into the nuclei and the dense metal of the plates. The resulting particles traveled through the emulsion layers and created observable imprints left behind. This reported detection of neutrino interactions revealed two major things. First, it verified the position forward of the Atlas interaction point at the LHC is the right location for detecting collider neutrinos. Second, the efforts demonstrated the effectiveness of using an emulsion detector to observe these kind of neutrino interactions. Now, this is just the beginning of a highly ambitious quest to detect neutrino interactions and continue to explore the strange world of subatomic particles. Given the power of the new detector and its prime location at CERN, we expect to be able to record more than 10,000 neutrino interactions in the next run of the LHC, beginning in 2022. We will detect the highest energy neutrinos that have ever been produced from a human-made source. The phaser team has big plans for exploring dark matter at the LHC as well. The team is working towards an experiment with phaser instruments to try and detect so-called dark photons, which scientists expect to reveal the behavior and nature of dark matter. That is very awesome. In this last story, another pair of amateur astronauts is set to visit the ISS next month. A Russian Soyuz spacecraft carrying Japanese billionaire Yusaku Maezawa, video producer Yozo Hirona, and cosmonaut Alexander Mazurkin is scheduled to launch from the Baikonur Cosmodrome in Kazakhstan on December 8th, kicking off a 12-day mission to the ISS. Liftoff is scheduled for around 2:38 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Maezawa booked the trip for himself and Hirano, who will document the flight, via Virginia-based company Space Adventures. Space Adventures have sent 7 different paying customers to the orbiting lab to date, most recently in the fall of 2009, when Cirque du Soleil co-founder Guy Laliberte made the journey. Mazurkin will command the Soyuz. However, it hasn't been 12 years since an amateur astronaut has been aboard the ISS, far from it. Russian film director Klim Shipchenko and actor Yulia Parasites visited the orbiting lab for 10 days in October, as mentioned on Lost Wonder. But I don't know if I mentioned it or not, that movie that was filmed there will be called The Challenge. No release date that I've seen on that. Shipchenko and Parasites made the journey on a Soyuz as well, but their trip wasn't organized by Space Adventures. The Maezawa, Hirano, and Mazurkin flight will be the first ISS Space Adventure trip that carries more than one space tourist. The company has not revealed how much Maezawa paid for each seat, but previous customers reportedly plunked down anywhere from $20 to $40 million for their flights. Maezawa has been keeping everyone posted on his pre-flight activities via Twitter. For example, on November 19th, he tweeted that he had arrived at Baikonur. And on Saturday, November 27th, he posted a series of tweets outlining the unusual training he had been undergoing recently, which includes sleeping on an inclined bed, playing badminton every day, and being spun around in a special chair. The spinning chair almost feels like torture, he said. Some cosmonauts say it's necessary, some say it's not. Either way, it's the hardest training ever done. Warning, eyes will be spinning just by watching, where he said on Twitter, where he posted a video of the spinning chair in action. Now, Maezawa will go further afield than the ISS just a few years from now, if he's still living. The billionaire, who founded the online fashion retailer ZozoTown, among other companies, has also booked a journey around the moon on SpaceX's Starship vehicle. That flight is tentatively targeted for 2023. With that, I think it's time to go grab a drink and sit by the campfire to gaze up at the night or morning sky. December 6th, conjunction of the moon and Venus. The waxing crescent moon will pass about 2 degrees to the north of Venus. Look for the pair above the western horizon after sunset. You can tell I'm on like page 31 of the show. The words are starting to blend together. Day 7, conjunction of the moon and Saturn. The waxing crescent moon will swing about 4 degrees to the south of Saturn in the evening sky. As aforementioned, December 8th, a Russian Soyuz rocket will launch the Soyuz MS-20 crew capsule to the ISS with Masurkin, Maezawa, and Hirono, and it will lift off from the Baikonur Cosmodrome in Kazan at 2:38 a.m. December 9th, conjunction of the Moon and Jupiter. The waxing crescent moon will swing about 4 degrees to the south of Jupiter in the evening sky. Also December 9th, a SpaceX Falcon 9 rocket will launch NASA's Imaging X-ray Polarimetry Explorer. It will lift off from Launch Complex 39A at NASA's Kennedy Space Center in Florida during a 90-minute launch window that opens at 1 a.m. Eastern. December 12th, a Russian Proton rocket will launch 2 new satellites for the Russian Satellite Communications Company. This mission will lift off from the Baikonur Cosmodrome in Kazakhstan at 7:20 a.m. Then, December 13th and 14th, the annual Gemini meteor shower, one of the best meteor showers of the year, peaks. The Geminis are active December 4th through the 17th, and they often produce up to 50 visible meteors per hour. But this year, the 78% full moon will outshine some of the fainter meteors, so meteor viewing will vary depending on what meteors actually come through. December 18th, NASA's James Webb Space Telescope is finally scheduled to lift off from the Guinea Space Center in Kourou, French Guiana at 7:10 a.m. on an Ariane 5 ECA rocket. December 18th, the full moon of December, known as the full cold moon, occurs at 11:37 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. December 18th also, a SpaceX Falcon 9 will launch the Turksat 5B communication satellite from Cape Canaveral, Florida, during a 90-minute launch window that opens up at 10:58 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Well, that's it for both of tonight's shows. Thank you for tuning in when and however you do. I hope you enjoyed the extended show. Hopefully you are finding the extended shows enjoyable. Please let me know if you want me to keep doing them. Most of the time, there is material to get is easy enough, and for the most times, interesting enough for me to at least find 30 minutes or more to do an after show. You can find me at Stoner Brew & Co. on Twitter. Don't forget, Monday night here on KLRNRadio, America's podcast network, Fubar and Cyberchill will be on, starting at 9 p.m. Eastern, featuring that Amish one, Lou, and I think a guest host for Fubar. I think it's Brad, but I may be mistaken on that. Special thanks to NASA, SpaceX, Space.com, New Scientist, Scientific America, Phys.org, and many more for the great information on the stories tonight. I hope you enjoyed the shows, learned a little bit, and maybe had a laugh or two as well.
The universe is a pretty big place. It's bigger than anything anyone has ever dreamed of before. So if it's just us, seems like an awful waste of space. Right?
When I was young, it seemed that life was so wonderful, a miracle. Oh, it was beautiful, magical. And all the birds in the trees, well, they'd be singing so happily, oh, joyfully, oh, playfully, watching me. But then they sent me away to teach me how to be sensible, logical.